And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Still?
Still.
All right. Together we are leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Not only that, but we are also the founders.
We will be your hosts for this episode and every episode.
Unless we're not.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that.
Today is our 12th episode.
Lucky number 12.
Woo! Wait, is 12 a lucky number?
Well, it's not on the list of what's generally considered to be unlucky numbers, so yes.
Okay. We are here to answer your development and design questions, specifically about Idle Champions, but if you ask us about some other things or some of our other games, we might answer those too.
Yeah. And if you don't ask questions, however, you might have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of his recent flight to Toronto. It was supposed to be 5 hours long, but it says it takes 13 hours to reenact. Oof.
Yeah, don't make me relive that.
Yeah, plus you'd have to do it wearing a mask, and it would be all muffled and really hard to understand.
And I'd have a crying 1-year-old on my lap.
Nope, that's a hard pass.
Anyway, on our last stream, we talked about the upcoming cooperative multiplayer feature, The Trials of Mount Tiamat. We are happy to continue to answer any questions you guys might have about that, or anything else you might want to ask us about.
And as always, we pulled some questions from last week. Well, it says last week's show, but it was 2 weeks ago's show. So long ago at this point.
We are so bad at these scripts.
Yep. We didn't get to answer, and so we'll start answering those while we wait for new questions to come in. As well as I have a few items that we tagged last week to be looked at, and I'll just cover those briefly.
Fantastic.
Here we go. Right.
And by last week, you mean 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So long ago. So we did add a few things to the list last week on the things for developers to look into. One of them was adding a setting to prevent the game screen from dimming and then turning off on iOS and Android. It looks like that should actually be fairly straightforward to do, but just so that it's not something that we force onto people, I'd like to put that into a setting. So I've got that tag to be looked at. There was a wonderful suggestion that we should add an achievement for completing all of the variants in Tomb of Annihilation. I believe the suggestion was it should be called Tomb Annihilated. That is also on the list now. And we still have one, I think maybe it was from the previous one from that, which was to add an indicator to the time gate selection to show how close any of the champions are to getting an epic item in the next chest. So that has also been added to the list.
Mm-hmm. And
in addition to that, I think people will be very happy to know that I've personally been digging into some of the offline progress issues and have come up and I found a handful of small things that have been fixed and will likely be out in one of the more sooner upcoming builds. So we got that going.
One of the more sooner upcoming builds. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anywho.
Carrying on. So to questions left over from... We've got this written everywhere last week, but they're not
from 2 weeks. Oh, I spelled 2 wrong.
You know, if we just filled that in with the prior show, then it would be
right,
that's
a good idea.
Regardless of how many weeks
it is. Oh my God. Okay. Prior show. And then an apostrophe, like prior shows in case they're from a couple of weeks ago.
There we go.
Okay, anyway, I'm sure players enjoy seeing the process.
Everyone needs
Let's
to
ask
see
some
the
questions.
Being made. We're doing it live. All right. First question left over from the previous show. From Wandering Bereft. And Wandering Bereft asked, patron challenges start on a Monday. What day will the Trials week start? Will patrons ensure that the champion you sent to Trials is not required for any patron tasks that week?
So, 2 questions, really. The first question, what day will Trials start? Trials actually don't have a fixed start date. So it's basically whenever the campaign starts, you can start a campaign at any point, and it'll last for a week after that. And then once that campaign ends, 7 days after that campaign starts, I guess, you can start another one. So players get to pick their own start date for their trials. And because of that, we don't have anything currently in the patron code for picking tasks or challenges that exclude certain patron or certain challenges based on the trials that you're the champion you chose to send on the trial.
Okay, and as a clarification for that, if you start and finish early, do you get to start again then, or is it still on a 7-day timer?
Not currently. Yeah, you get to even if you manage to defeat Tiamat early, you still have to wait 7 days from when the campaign started before you can start another one. And that is at least that's how it's currently set up. I imagine that'll be something that is requested to be changed. But we do have our reasons for that.
Yeah, because that'd certainly make it a little difficult for people to align if they started at different times.
Yeah, I imagine there'll be some drift. Here's a question from General Maskiel, who asks, "Do we get a cinematic at the end of the week of the raid party beating Tiamat? Have we put tens of millions of dollars into like AAA level cinematics for defeating Tiamat?"
Nobody said it was AAA. They said just a cinematic.
Okay, you know what? I can probably whip something up in MS Paint.
Maybe that.
Is that sort of the wrong end of the spectrum there?
Just maybe by a small amount.
Yeah, we don't have anything set up yet.
There's nothing. No cinematic, but that would be pretty awesome. So,
but yeah, like much of D&D, you'll just have to kind of imagine it in your mind. Be like, there we go. We're defeating Tiamat. Roll the 20. There we go.
All right. I can tell you got a bunch of pent-up sarcasm from missing an episode.
I do. I have a lot stored in here, so
okay.
Apologies in advance.
Moving on. The next question here from M455954. It's a good name. Are Tiamat trial adventures using one of the existing favor pools for initial gold find, or do you always start from 0? Yeah,
so good question. Much like time gates, you will start from 0 at the beginning of every campaign, and then you'll be able to convert that favor for a bonus to one of your permanent campaigns at the end of the week.
Cool.
Here's another question from the same person, General Maskiel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I should probably pull up the chat in case they're around here telling me that
That's
I
left
suck.
over from last week. They're probably not with this.
So they're asking, when localization comes out, can we have the option to keep it in English? I'm Brazilian, but I'd rather play the game in English.
So yeah, 100%. You can actually select what language you want to put the game in from the settings menu. Once we do roll out localization, it will detect what your locale is and set you to that if it is one of the ones that we are translating to. But yeah, nothing's stopping you from changing it to any language of your choice that's going to be available. So it's just a setting.
Yeah, and there's another question here from last week, or from our prior show, from Cetos, or Setos, or Satoshi, who asks, is there any way to make the UI bigger than 125%? Playing on a 4K monitor makes it really, really small.
Yeah, fair enough. Sort of more proper 4K support is something that we started work on maybe 2 years ago now. I know I promised it then, and we never got around to actually finishing that up. And the biggest reason was just the font. It was the additional font sizes made it, we'd have to go through and change sort of everything over to scale up from beyond that, because otherwise the text is still small, even though the UI elements got bigger, because the UI elements don't actually scale as in like they get stretched. They scale as in they get laid out at a larger size. So the easiest thing to do for that is actually to go into the application set. Like if you're running on a 4K monitor and you've got your scaling set down to whatever, I think 100%. If you go in and find the application executable, and you can go into the properties and change the high DPI scaling settings, you should be able to make it so that the actual game comes up at a larger size. But unfortunately, beyond doing something like that, we don't have proper support for that at this time, and it's not something that, to my knowledge, is on the priority list right now. So best thing to do is change the application setting there.
Yeah.
Okay. New questions.
Those are the ones we pulled. Yeah, we got a few questions here.
Those are new questions that are coming in.
10 minutes in, and we've answered 0 new questions from this week. We're doing great. Okay. Sorry, that's sarcasm. It's just
all right.
This is what happens when I'm delayed for 8 hours on a plane.
But that was 2 days ago.
Yeah, sure. Here's a question. Well, it was a week ago, but yes. It takes a long time to get over that kind of stuff. Trust me. Here's the very first question here from Henry Lonewind. Asks, hi devs, any news on Freely's epic trait, or feat I assume, not working? And they gave us a little winky face, because this question gets asked every week.
I don't think anyone's looked further into that yet. It's still
on the list. Peter's back now. Like for the last few weeks or last few shows, we've used the excuse that Peter wasn't here, and he's the one who would assign that out to someone. But now he's back, so let's just mark that and make sure that it gets assigned out.
Okay. Next question is from Garwar. Garwar would like to know, a lot of players get confused when they don't see some ability effects show up in the formation buffs tab on the champ UI when it's not a global all damage type of, when it is a global all champs damage type effect. Since there are already indicators for outgoing and incoming effects, how difficult would it be to add another one for global after those that would be included, or that would include things like this?
That's a great question. I don't know exactly how hard it would be to kind of detect those and aggregate those on a per champion basis, but I do know that that is something that I would like to address at some point in the future. I would like to have it be more obvious exactly what is going out and what is coming into each champion, and I would like them to be flagged in a way that it makes it more obvious sort of what kind of effect it is. So, for example, there's some abilities that buff formation abilities or formation-based abilities, and it's unclear at times exactly what abilities those will buff, and I would like to make that a little bit more clear. And so, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done on the profile dialogue and in those menus to make that stuff more clear. And it's something that I would like to address, hopefully in the coming year. We're still trying to figure out exactly what our kind of big feature next year is going to be, and I have a feeling that it might just be like the biggest quality of life update you have ever seen. But no promises on that because I can't see the future. Another question here. This is one that we've seen a couple of times, but we'll call it out here just in case there's some new folks in chat. It's from Super Fluffy Kitty, and they ask, can the buy gold chest slider be changed so that the max is whatever your current max is? Currently it caps out at 100 regardless of your gem count, so buying the max is a chore because you either have to find the sub 100 number in a huge slider, or if you have more gems than that, you can only buy in multiples of 100. So what do you think, Dave?
I think someone asked this previously, and I thought we were going to do something along this line.
I do think that we said this is a good idea and we should do it.
And yet it wasn't in my list. It didn't get tagged as yellow. I can see you've tagged it now.
I'm tagging it as yellow now.
All right.
It's a new day. It's our 12th episode, and we're finally going to start recording these in
I'm going to take this right now, and I'm going to copy it in.
We're putting it into our document.
In the doc now. There it is.
Things that are in the document get brought up every week until they get fixed.
That's right, until you have Peter on to yell at people.
Ooh, we should have Peter on next week.
Okay. Next question is from Crazy Matt Captain. And Crazy Matt Captain asks, 2 years ago, the C-Team weekly challenges had the rewards Champion a shireskin and a Donar Slot 5 GE. Are there plans on making these available through the gem shot or other method anytime soon? Are these not available currently?
I'm surprised that the Champion of Shireskin wouldn't be either in the gem shop or in wild offers at this point. The Donar GE is probably in wild offers, but may not be if it somehow got missed. I know we try and capture those things that are in like weekend promotions, like the Friday to Monday sales that we do, or in premium DLC. But it's possible that we could have missed something that was in kind of a specialized system like the C-Team weekly challenges. So I can check with Dupuy and Rudram and see what's going on with that. Boop.
Okay. Next question is from Super Fluffy Kitty.
They're getting all their questions in early.
And Super Fluffy Kitty would like to know, can we get a clue on the next patron and or Evergreen?
Yeah, I highlighted this one. I was like, yeah, we can answer that. And then I was like, what is the next patron? I know there are people here who know this. I do know the next Evergreen, so I can give you a hint to that. The next Evergreen is related to the Icewind Dale campaign, to the Rime of the Frost Maiden. And it is a character that you have seen in the some of the adventures. So that's who it is.
It's a good
That
hint.
is the clue.
Okay.
And it is a it is a champion that I am supposed to design in the next week. So I better get on that.
All right then. Next
Gotta go.
question. The next question is from Kayvon Tarax, and they would like to know, some weekly patron challenges feel overly long. With upcoming weekly tasks like multiplayer, this feeling will get worse. Can you tone down the worst ones, like 1,000 areas without support champions?
Yeah, we probably can. There was a point in the development where we were looking at the patron challenges and trying to think of ways to kind of limit those per week, and let you just pick a couple of the patrons to do the challenges for, so you didn't have to feel like you had to do 4 patrons worth of challenges every week. And we still may make some changes there, or do some stuff to adjust that. But in the meantime, we can probably take a look at some of those more long-term ones that are like several resets to complete, and maybe adjust them. The other sort of part of this question that I did want to touch on is, I think the multiplayer feature, hopefully the way it's designed, shouldn't feel too onerous. If you want to max out kind of your DPS contribution to the co-op campaign, it's really only kind of 1 adventure per day. So yeah, I don't think it'll feel like it's adding too much to the plate. Hopefully. We'll see. We're getting some good feedback from our beta testers now, so hopefully if it is feeling too onerous and feeling like it's adding too many chores to the game, for lack of a better word, then we will absolutely try to tone that down. Let's see. Here's another question from Super Fluffy Kitty. Maybe there's just a whole bunch of like really fluffy kitties in the chat, and we're just answering questions from different ones. They ask, can bounty contracts be changed to a more suitable max? 50 is a luxury for sure. We did recently change it to 50, but it's just not enough. I currently have, what is that, like 18,000?
Is that 18,000 or 1,800?
18,000. It's either 18,000 or, yeah, it's 18,000. 1.8 e to the 4 green contracts. So that is many green contacts, and that would take a very long time to use, 50 at a time.
Yeah.
So what are our thoughts on that? I feel like we've answered this one as well, every week as well.
That's
I think last time we talked about maybe adjusting it so you could do sort of 50 like epics or rares, and then maybe more of the greens or more of the commons. I think you can get commons now out of Electrum chests.
Yeah, I mean, use your contracts.
Just use them. Just use them all immediately. Yeah. So I think we're going to look at the result, or look at the possibility of doing that and sort of scaling it out for the lower end ones, so you can do more of them at once. But it also, we should touch on the reason that we want to try and keep that a little bit lower, and that is we don't want to have someone go in and intend to use like 100 green contracts and end up using 18,000 of them at once, and then that wouldn't be very efficient in terms of you'd probably get more event currency than you could use in one event, and you probably get more, you would get an amount of gold that would be useful in your current level, but you go a couple levels higher and it wouldn't be as useful anymore. So you might get a bit of regret using that many contracts at once. So we want to make sure that people can't accidentally do that kind of thing. So that's why we do try to have limits in there. But we can certainly tweak what those limits are.
Yeah, something like that would need a, are you sure? And then followed by a, are you really sure? You want to use 18,000? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Severand0166. And Severand would like to know, have you ever thought about adding something like a wild offer slot machine where you could spend gems to get new wild offers? Show me a goblin flute and take my money. It's a reference I don't get, probably. Okay.
It's probably a really good GE. So I don't think we ever thought of, well, I'd say we never thought about something like that, because I'm sure we probably have in some brainstorming session. We have thought about possibly offering sort of multiple wild offers at once, because there's just so many golden epics and so many items that are available in wild offers. Sort of the rate at which we're offering them out is probably lower than it could be right now. We could probably offer like 3 at the same time, and you could pick one to take or something like that. I mean, I'd really, I'd rather not sort of have a thing where it's just another way to kind of randomize what your wild offer is, because that just feels a little bit.
That's an odd one.
Just too random. I'd rather just offer you, 3 different things and be like, these are what we're offering you, take it or leave it kind of thing, rather than have it be like, spend some currency to maybe get something useful or maybe not.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. On the other hand, we just continue to offer. We know what happens if we accidentally offer a new wild offer the immediate moment after you've purchased the previous one.
Yes, that is, yes, that has happened before by accident.
We will not speak of that.
We will not speak of that again.
All right.
Here's a question from Lizard Tastes Good. This is probably just the same person. This is probably just the same super fluffy kitty. Just stating a different fact that kitties think. They say, any update on the ability to bypass Steam when its servers are down? Good old Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Yeah. I know we mentioned this on the previous stream. No, we haven't put anything further into that, but it is on the list. Or at the very least, it's on the list now.
Da-da. Okay. Putting it on the list.
Okay.
Oops, I highlighted too much there. There we go.
We've got a question here from NMAVH5.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that alphanumeric person would like to know, a while back you mentioned that you might be able to make the game not minimize when it's full screen mode and you click on another monitor, on Epic Game Store at least. Any update on that?
Yeah, any update on that?
Yeah, I realize I flagged that as general. So can anyone in the chat confirm that's still happening on Epic? Because that particular setting, I confirmed with Peter after the last stream that was still set, and it should be. That shouldn't be happening anymore. So I see. Empress Newt says yes, it is. Huh. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to actually load it up on Epic and check that myself, because I did in fact look over Peter's shoulder and see the option still set in the Unity build settings. So I'm not sure why that's happening there. So I'll put that on the list here to just go and confirm myself and see why that's happening. Do we have anyone on Steam who can confirm it's happening there or not? Because they should be the same build. Okay. Well, while we're waiting on that, we have a question here for you, Justin, from Feral Storm 201.
Mm-hmm.
And Feral Storm would like to know if you are happy with how Eliwick works with her new deck of many things. For example, Flame says it has a 20% chance per draw, and you can't pull the same card twice. But from there, small sample size, when it's available, she pulls things well over 35% of the time.
I would have to take a look at that. I think that might be. It shouldn't be drawing that many times, but I think there could be. Well, it might actually be drawing that many times. It could be that you can't draw the same card 2 times in a row, and so it's a 20% chance out of all the cards when one of them is removed. For example, when one of the beneficial cards is removed, there's 2 beneficial cards left, and then there's kind of 1 and a half bad cards left, and so it could maybe pump up the odds for that card to get drawn. I thought we had also put flames on a lower percentage than 20% per draw, so I'd also have to take a look at that. Though that might be right. It might be 25, 25, 25, 20, and 5. I'll have to take a look at that and see what it's supposed to be. But yeah, if we need to make some adjustments to Eliwick to maybe make flames draw a little bit less, then we could certainly look into doing that. Oh, doggo.
Can you hear that?
Well, I heard it through my headphones, so assumedly everyone heard it.
So we are getting a package delivery. The dog is excited.
From a dog? Oh no, the dog is barking at the mail. I get it.
Yeah.
Here's another question from Henry Lonewind, who has a suggestion for mobile. I assume this is related to that mobile thing you were mentioning earlier. He says, make it go no screen off when a power supply is attached automatically, even if the normal setting is off. So if, I assume if you've got your phone plugged in to power, the screen should stay on. I think that's a decent idea.
Yeah, I agree. I'll put that next to the other suggestion for that, and then the real question will be if that's something Unity exposes to us.
That's true. I would hope so. I would think
I would
so.
hope so. Yeah.
That would feel like something that a program on a phone would want to know. Like, can I do high intense, things that will drain the battery?
I think it probably does expose that to us, but there's always the possibility that it doesn't. Okay.
Ace FSJ1 has a new familiar idea. Postal delivery doggo. Sounds good to me. Let's make it happen. You want to do next question?
Next question is from Kinra VIP or Kinra VIP. Either way, I guess they're not capitalized. So, in the time gate and blacksmithing menus, is there a reason that we can't sort our champions alphabetically? I think he means, is there a good reason?
I think there's definitely a reason. We haven't coded it that way. I don't think there is a good reason.
Is that something that is likely to be like? Is that a desirable sort? I mean, obviously.
I guess if you're just looking for a particular champion and you know what their name is and you know what the names of the other champions are, then it would certainly be probably a decent way to find them. I think in the timegate one, it's super straightforward to do that because we've already got sorts built in there, and so we just need to add another option. For the blacksmithing one, I don't think we have any sorting options in there at the moment, and so that would require a little bit of new UI to put that sorting somewhere. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah, we can add that to the requests.
This is getting long.
Well, we need to sort of prioritize because this is going to be a little bit lower in the requests than some of the stuff.
I was going to sort them
pressing.
alphabetically and
smart.
Okay.
Sorry, smart ass.
Oh.
Sorry.
Next question.
Yeah.
From a bit stodgy. A bit stodgy would like to know: will there be an anniversary celebration specifically September 15th through 20th?
Man, I don't know if there will be an anniversary celebration the 15th through the 20th. It might be different days. In fact, I can almost guarantee it's different days because the 15th through the 20th isn't 7 days, and our anniversary celebrations are always 7 days. So it will not be the 15th through the 20th, but it might be other days around there. I don't know specifically when it is. That's a good question for when we get to Puyon here.
Yes. But there is one scheduled.
We've got to have our anniversary celebrations. I mean, we're throwing our own birthday party.
Okay. Next question is from Maelstrom7737. And they would like to know, how would a Trials of Tiamat campaign end early if it's supposed to be 7 days?
So your Trials of Tiamat campaign will end when one of two things happens. The first thing is the 7 days are up, and the second thing is if you manage to defeat Tiamat. And you can defeat Tiamat early by doing enough DPS. I know in our testing, some people have soloed Tiamat in 1 day, which we are going to nerf the heck out of because that shouldn't be happening. But yes, you can kill Tiamat early, and then your campaign would end. You'd get all your rewards early, and then you would have to wait a little bit to start another one. So that is how that would happen. Here's another question from, well, that's a big question you just highlighted. Here's another question from Sigma JT234, who asks, would it be possible to add functionality to enter multiple chess combinations at once? Entering each individually is okay if you only have to do one or two, but if you have a bunch, there's a lot of clicking to get them redeemed.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mainly just from a sort of what's the intention behind the system, I think, right? Like the goal isn't to inundate people with so many chests that this is a chore. But at the same time, I can see, a handful piling up, especially because we have, I guess we give out one chest code per stream, and we have an inordinate number of those. And then each in the weekly newsletters. Yeah, I guess I could see it being fairly easy to fall behind and end up with half a dozen or more to type in, or at least to paste in. I assume this player knows that they can hit Control V to paste the code in, because otherwise they'd be asking about clicking so many times on the little combination wheel, and that just
yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of clicks even once you redeem it, right? You got to like flip the cards and then close it, and then you got to wait a couple of seconds for the chest to float back to its place before you can click it again. And yeah, there's certainly some stuff there that slows it down.
Yeah, we have a hidden system. If you paste all of the codes into a single notepad file, copy all that onto the clipboard, then set them all in one go.
Paste in, it just does them all at once.
Yeah,
that would be quite the Easter egg.
Yeah, I mean, I think the additional issue on that is it also would need, there'd be additional server functionality required, because you would have to redeem them all in one go. Otherwise, it's quite the queuing system for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the answer on this is it would be possible, but it would be a super low priority item at this point. I think a lot of the other action items are going to be up the list on that. So we could do it, but I don't think it's something we're going to prioritize anytime soon. I don't know. You had additional thoughts on that?
Nope. I think I think you covered that pretty well.
Cool. Okay. Next question here is from Captain Hossey. And Captain Hossey says, I love the portrait pictures of the heroes on the controller UI, but I don't play the game with a controller. Are you working on a way to integrate that art into the standard UI?
So I think we've answered this before, and if I recall correctly, the answer was we are not working on a way to do that because it just doesn't quite fit on the current UI. But I wanted to know if you had any other thoughts on this, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I appreciate the fact that the controller UI portraits are, well, I mean, they're specifically done as an additional asset, so the artists go and do that as a unique piece rather than as just a zoom in on the character. So they do look great, which would be nice if we could highlight that art more in just the console UI version, because that's I think at this point there's significantly more players who are playing with the standard UI than with the console UI. So I think it might. Well, we'd have to play with it and see if it could fit. It's entirely possible it could fit in those boxes, but cut the shoulders off. We could play with it, but it's not something that we've been spending any time on.
I think it would look pretty cool, but yeah, it's like you say, they're not quite built to the same ratio. They're the same specifications.
Yeah, they definitely end up chopped off, but it could work. It's still centered on the bottom line.
Here's another question about high resolution support from Valor Z. They ask, can we have one row of familiars unless they don't fit? The triple row in the middle of my screen is taking up less than 1/3 of the space and looks non-optimal. Literally unplayable, Dave.
Wow, I wonder what resolution they're running at there. Something super high, I imagine.
12,000 by...
It's 8K. It needs 4 HDMI cables to connect it. Yeah. So one thing I can say to this is that we are, it is on the list coming up to redesign that UI, to add a bunch of functionality to it. The number of familiars have gotten out of hand, and it needs to be, they need an organizational system. So I know, I'm not exactly sure what all the little details on that piece were, but I know we're going to add some level of filtering and sorting and a way to hide and show the ones that you've got and the ones that are available for sale and different ways you can get them. So that one is coming up soon.
Yeah. I think at the very least, yeah, we were definitely going to do some sorting there, because right now they're just kind of, they're sorted by the order in which they were added to the game. So you get some that are available for gems and some that are available from other places and some that are available for purchase, and just it's just kind of random.
Yeah. And I think the last time this came up, when we were hitting a high number of familiars, particularly for players that had every last one of them, always had caught them all, that we just increased the number of rows that we had by a couple so that it would fit, because we're sort of aiming to fill and aiming to make sure that it fit at 720p. That's our sort of our bottom end resolution. So that's our minimum, and that's probably why you're at the high resolution. It's sort of, I think it's probably clamped in there at 720 width across, and then it gets taller.
Yeah.
So now we could certainly consider what it looks like at higher resolutions when we redo that dialogue. But I don't know, be one row of familiars all the way across. That would be a really weird aspect. One single line all the way across.
Yeah. Gotta try and keep it pretty close to a better ratio, to the golden ratio if we can, just to make it look pleasing to the eye.
Okay. Now this next question, I actually highlighted this at first because they actually provided pronunciation for their name.
Thank you very much.
So
yes.
That was enough points on its own to get. And then I started going through, and they've got three complete questions in here. So
okay,
let's see how this goes. So Alpha Crawl, which I definitely wouldn't have got the pronunciation from that.
Alpha. I would have gone Alpha Kroll.
Yeah.
Alpha, like roll, alpha, right? The
roll.
Little seeds. Yeah.
Anyway, Alpha Crawl asks, question 1, have you considered changing Electrum chests to just be for event champs, since gold and silver is for Evergreen?
No, I haven't considered that. I'm decently happy with kind of how Electrum chests work out. They're kind of striking a balance between sort of gold chests and patron chests in that way, or silver chests and patron chests. They're like, we got to the point where we had, as Dave said, we had innumerable streams and giving out just a lot of gold chests, which just became eventually kind of useless. And so I think the Electrum chests are a much better kind of balance between something that remains useful even moving forward, because they can eventually kind of fill out your collection of event champion gear. So no plans to change those right now.
All right. Question part 2. Will it be possible to grant collector players, so I assume that is players who are trying to collect all of the gear, have missing locked slots to get the missing piece somehow?
Grant collectors have a missing and locked slots to get the... I'm assuming this is with regards to gear, since the previous question was... So this is like getting common and uncommon equipment that you missed, and potentially in slots that are capped out, like slot 6 or something, like a ability or a ultimate cooldown
this
slot.
Is probably stuff for showing on the collection screen.
On the collection screen, yeah. And I did mention, I have mentioned once or twice in these streams that I would like to redo the collection screen and have it much more detailed, with much more not just champions and gear, but have a bunch of other stuff kind of listed in there, like how many adventures you've completed and your highest areas and adventures and various stuff like that. So we can just give you a whole boatload of progress bars to fill up, because, well, that's fun. So I think once we get to looking at that, I think we'll have to look at a way to provide those missing pieces of gear, because otherwise we'll have progress bars that you can't fill up to full, which would be incredibly frustrating. and we don't want to be incredibly frustrating to you guys because we like to be nice to you. So yeah, I think that's something that we are definitely going to be looking into in the future. I can't say specifically when, but it is something that we want to look into.
All right, and part 3. Wow, we got three questions
Ooh.
in, and that's tied with Fluffy Kitty, right? Could we get more behind the scenes posts from the devs, since they've got Peter and Sean there? I think it's interesting, the few posts that are posted in the bugs channel on the Discord or elsewhere, and want more behind the scenes stuff. Like the problem about running Spotify in the background affecting the game somehow. Really, did that happen? It could also possibly lead to more detailed feedback for other bugs. So
Yeah.
this is a tough one, because Peter has just so much on his plate right now that he does not have any free seconds to put up posts on this sort of stuff.
He barely has free time to make new builds for everyone. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a tough thing. Every time we have a developer, like even us, when we come on and do this stream, right? It's a couple of hours a week that we could be spending on other stuff. So it's hard to kind of justify doing a lot of that stuff. I think from time to time it's fine, and so we could definitely see it from time to time, but it's definitely harder to justify that kind of stuff on a regular basis. Because yeah, I think you guys would like those guys to be finding bugs and fixing bugs, and so would we in general. Yeah, that's my feeling on that, at least.
Yeah. No, definitely nice. I agree that it's really interesting, and when we can do it, we do it. But for Peter right now, it's not an open question. And
yeah,
I'm not sure. We have to talk to Sean to see if he wanted to do. I don't know that. Yeah.
JFC Fuller says, so it's our fault the bugs aren't fixed. That's right. That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because if you guys didn't ask so many questions in this thing, we could end early. We could be done at like 2:30 and go off. No, I'm just kidding. Here's another question from General Captain Hawsey, who this is kind of the opposite of the other questions about the UI ratio. They're asking, would you guys consider letting us shrink the UI ratio size further than we currently can? So go lower than 75%?
I assume that's for use on like the lower resolutions. And
I'm going to assume that's someone running at 640 by 480,
yeah.
With 13 colors.
Screen mode 12?
Screen 12? I think 12 is 640 by 40, yes.
Yeah, and the answer on this one is that we do operate to a minimum size, which is 720p, and we do so so that there's enough room to get fit in the layout pieces and the text. And unfortunately, if you shrink beyond that, there actually isn't enough. Things start to get crushed. Text ends up getting not only just like set down in size, but also scaled, and it starts to look really, really, really nasty. And so the answer on that one is no, because we don't want to end up in a situation where sort of things have been made to look really quite awful, and then sort of be a potential misrepresentation of what the game is supposed to look like. So
yeah, we need to draw a line somewhere and be like, these are the minimum specs, and we will allow you to go below them because we understand that some people are running on older hardware or older like an older laptop with a fixed screen size. But in general, we're not going to actively support some of those because it becomes a slippery slope of what do we actively support. So.
Yeah. Now, that said, I believe you can probably modify that value manually in the settings.json file, which you will now find in the streaming assets folder inside the main build, instead of in that really obscure Unity folder, because it was coming up enough that people were asking about that, then I moved it to inside the streaming assets folder so that it's more easy. Wow, I'm winning today. Easier to access, as well as if you're running the Epic version and the Steam version on the same system, it will no longer share the same settings file, which was another side effect of that. So,
that's funny.
Yeah. which was funny for players who upgraded the Steam version and not the Epic one, because we had an offset there when one version was out and the other one wasn't. Because that meant that you'd open the Steam one and it would copy your settings over and remove it, and then you'd open the Epic one and everything would be reset. Anyway,
sad face.
Cool. Next question here from General. I'm going to read this from Cassius335. I think someone already suggested this, but any chance that a potion of frost, of a potion of frost, something that slows enemy movement and attack speed?
This is a good question. We're always, and this is going to be more of a process answer than a specific answer to this question, but one of the things we have to be careful of is adding new things that are of that are of limited utility, because what ends up happening in cases like that is they just end up stacking up and players get a whole bunch of them. And so when we're adding things like, if we were to add something like this, that is kind of, in general, it's only useful, right at your wall. It's not going to kind of speed you up like a speed potion or a damage potion or a gold potion will at any point in your run. And so I think what would happen if we added something like this is players would just stack them up and up, up and up and up and up. And then eventually the inevitable calls for some sort of potion shop where you can trade in potions or combine potions or something like that would come even faster than it is inevitably already coming. And it's the next question here. Yes, no, I'm just kidding. So we have to be very, very careful about what we add in general chests, especially potion-wise. And so if we were going to add something like that, it would come after quite a bit of thought and pondering. And we'd probably have to go up a mountain and speak to a guru and really try and figure out if it's the right thing to do or not. Like in Batman, goes up to that and learns how to fight. But it turns out that's the bad guy all along. Oh, spoilers. Yeah. Next question.
I don't know what to say to that.
I've been gone for so long.
Garwar would like to know, with the new campaign on the horizon and new tiers of blessing coming as well, will you be changing how the power increase works at area 1002 to match the rest of the game?
Yes. We are going to probably before the next set of blessings and the soft cap increase that I think is planned around the same time. I will go in and take a look at that. We will probably also bump out the hard cap to areas as well, up beyond 1500. So yes, those are both things that we are looking into, and I will highlight that so that I remember that I said that. Okay. So that I can regret it when I forget to do it. Here's a question from Valor Z, who asks, have you considered a public feature/story/work list and let us users vote on prioritization?
I don't know, Justin. Have we considered such a thing?
That'd be great if we didn't have to be our own bosses and we just let other people decide what we're going to work on next.
I was trying to get at we actually have such a thing. I know you wrote
we
one.
do actually have that thing, don't we?
Yep, we do.
Do you want to plug it? I think that's why you wanted it.
Yeah, that's why I highlighted it.
Let's plug it.
So, actually, I don't have the link handy. And the last time we mentioned it, somebody was kind enough to paste it into the chat. But when you go to open a ticket, there's actually a public bug tracker and a public feature tracking system that is something that gets looked at every week by Peter and the rest of the team. And the bugs listed on there are prioritized. But in addition to the bugs being listed there and prioritized, there's actually a suggestion section to it as well, which also is places for player upvotes. And that is also looked at every week when Peter goes over the bug list. So yes, and I see a comment there. Are features really looked at from OG17? The answer is yeah, they are, for sure.
Yep, every week they go over it. They don't go over all of them, I assume, because there's thousands there, but I think they look at the most upvoted ones.
Yeah, and in fairness, Peter is actually going down that list right now and trying to sort through the older ones and highlight or look through ones that are older than I think three months that don't have more than 2 upvotes and sort of close those off if they don't get any upvotes, so that we've got a list that's more concise. And then, of course, I know at the top of the list, because I did it last week, is the Modron feature stuff. And that's something that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm personally looking at right now to try and get those sorted out. Because the team for Champions has certainly found itself in a position where focus on features and focus on sort of the champion for each event hasn't left them with a lot of time to focus on the bugs. And so I'm helping out with that right now. And I know, Justin, you've got some of your time that is earmarked for that coming up.
That is true.
As well as what we've previously mentioned, that the people who are working on trials right now and on the localization stuff are also earmarked to be working on bugs once that is launched. So they're getting looked at.
They are. It's starting. we're getting through this kind of feature push, and we are getting to the let's make sure the game works in general push.
Yep. All right. You want to ask the next one, Justin?
Sure, yeah. Here's another question from A Bit Stodgy, who I remember before looked a little bit stodgy. Quality of life suggestion. How about if on the character upgrades panel, when the show upcoming checkbox is selected, it opens the upgrades, or I guess it just opens to the end of the list, so it scrolls to the bottom of the list when the show upcoming checkbox is selected.
That seems something
sounds
that's
like
completely
a good
doable.
quality of life. Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
Huh? I will
does
copy
sound
that
like
element.
an idea.
All right. Okay.
Great.
Moving to the next question here. We've got one from Henry Leowind, and Henry is saying, it would be nice to have some bonus when buying chess packs where you already have the GE. For example, a reduction on the pity timer so that the 3 to 7 chess packs at least give one epic item.
I'm trying to I wonder if we've talked about this before. I don't know that we've talked about this before on the stream, but I wonder if just in general in the company we've talked about this, because we've sort of done this kind of GE thing with your first purchase of chess, like all the way back to Crusaders. And I know there's obviously you can get there's a buff that comes with all chess packs that you can still get once you've got the GE. But I wonder why we kind of came down on just you're gonna get the GE and then that's kind of it for the bonuses after that. Do you recall it all in this, Dave?
Why was that when you already?
Why was that? Just reach back into your memory.
I mean, that would have been a decision made back in
for like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that's more than that. That's a 7-8-year-old decision.
Yeah, I think this is maybe something that we can kind of float around in our heads and see if there's something that makes sense there.
Yeah, we could revisit that.
Yeah, we can think about this one, but we don't. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I don't have any specific thoughts on it right now to verbalize, but it's something that we can definitely think about.
All right. Next question from Edermott. Edermott says, is there a reason why Eldritch Blast isn't the same as the tabletop version? It should shoot up to 5 beams.
Is that so? Well, that's at higher skill, at higher spell slots, or something like that, I assume.
Well,
so yeah, I highlighted this one as it's another kind of one of those process ones that we can talk about rather than maybe talking about specifically the answer to this. But we do take a little bit of creative license with the abilities. We will pull in ability names and kind of the general description and the general appearance. But at a certain time, we have to kind of match the effect of it to what we needed to do in the game, and I think Eldritch Blast is possibly one of those things that we've kind of pulled in and being like, okay, we're going to do this particular version of it, or like it's always going to fire off at at the level 1 equivalent.
I think it can
certainly
shoot 5 beams, but the damage is just 6d6. Or
yes, I mean that would be a bit of a problem, right? So yeah, so that's the reason that it just shoots 1 is because that's what we need the game mechanic to do. Certainly, if you Prudence, for example, I believe she has Eldritch Blast as her base attack, and if you take her specialization, you don't have to roll a 50% that many times to shoot 5 beams pretty much in a row with her. So we're getting closer, but yeah, we do take a bit of creative license with each of those and kind of fit them to what we need the big game mechanic to be. rather than trying to exactly match the tabletop design.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the list of questions here and seeing we've got a significant remainder here. And we've only got a few more minutes. And I just want to give a shout out to the player's name, Mad Wet Squirrel. I like your name.
Shout out to you, sir.
We won't get to your question today, unfortunately.
No, it is way down this list.
But I do like the name.
Here's I got a one. Let's do one or two more questions, I guess.
Let's do two more and then wrap up.
Then I will ask you this one here from Mitzi Kitsy, who asks, loot bags often take time to drop after clearing a boss stage. Is there a way to deal with this?
No.
Do you want to talk about what is going on there when it's sort of waiting to drop a boss stack?
So the reason that loot bags, and I assume they're talking about more than just the time it takes for it to bounce out, but the time it takes for it to appear. And this is actually because when you defeat a boss, the game then actually saves and reports to the server that you've completed that boss, and then the server generates the loot that you're going to get in the loot bag, and then the loot bag appears. And so if there's a longer period of latency there, it's because it actually has to make that server call, and depending on your internet connection and depending on your connection to us, which both can be potentially an issue, there can be a bit of a delay there. So if you have a delay on that, often you might find that other factors have delays too, like when you're initially loading the game, and maybe your user account and definitions take longer to load too. And it's just a latency issue, and it's because it has to contact the server. So unfortunately, if there's a lengthy time there, it's not something that we can address specifically. There's probably some minor steps you might be able to do. If you're on Wi-Fi, you might be able to connect faster if you're connected wired instead. But generally speaking, if there's a latency there, it's because there's somewhere between you and us there's a delay.
And the very last question of the day. This is one that I wanted to bring up on the show because I've been seeing this a bunch in chat and on Reddit and various places. And this is from Sodius, who is asking, is there a way to not show the info button? Having to hit it to get to the achievements kills me every time. So this is related to, we compressed the achievements and the collections down to one button in order to make room for a couple of new features that are coming out soon. And there's been some feedback on that.
I see.
Do we have keyboard shortcuts for those?
We do. Achievements is just A. But then if you're playing on a tablet or on, I guess you'd be on a tablet. So the console UI is different. So yeah, if you're on a tablet, that's not a solution. But if you're on Windows, you can just hit A to bring up the achievements.
OG17 is saying that it currently it doesn't sort of pop up when you just mouse over it. You have to actually click it to bring it up.
Yeah, and one thing actually, I had a little bit of feedback on that for whoever implemented it, and I didn't get around to providing that feedback. When I first saw it, it's way too slow. Yeah, it's like doop doop, and it's like
that should go faster.
I was gonna flag that, but
let's flag that now.
Yeah.
Let's flag that right in this document here, and we will get that.
We'll make that faster, for sure. I mean, it's still more of an inconvenience to have to click to get the achievements.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say if you can, use the hotkeys, and we will definitely make that menu open faster. But
yeah, in the meantime, it's just we need that space, and we don't really have a lot of space for more buttons there. So
yeah, we didn't have a good solution other than condensing the least or lower frequency used items to there. So
yeah.
All right. Well, it is 2:59, so we are definitely out of time.
Yes. If we didn't get to your questions this week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week, I think. So before we sign off, we would like to thank our tireless mods. Today it was Sasha taking all your questions and writing them down for us. So thanks, Sasha.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, and enjoying the game. because without you, none of us here would get to do what we do.
We like what we do.
All right. That's it. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye. It is really, really cold in this room now. Can we break the HVAC again?
No. He's making a cold mic joke.
Ah.